In the last part of the Land Cruiser restoration, we started taking apart the rear axle and all of the brake components to do a refresh, and basically left off that last video with it fully torn apart and with the wheel cylinders rebuilt. So now we're going to get everything put back together and start doing some mods that we kind of teased in the last part of the video as well. So stay tuned and we'll get straight to it. We are up close and personal in the rear differential of the Land Cruiser. So we've got a clip here and a clip there. We're going to pull them straight back out, and by doing that we will take out this 12 mil, which I already did. It's this guy right here. Pulled it out, and that is holding the shaft in, which I'm now going to push from the top down. All right. Kind of pull it out, and then this piece is gonna fall. So let's see. All right. I don't really want this coming out all the way. Oop, there it goes. So we have that piece in the center, the shaft that goes through it. This retaining bolt that held it together. And now you can see, we'll pull these clips out. So first one, actually, I've got to push the axle in. I'm gonna do this passenger side since it's easier, so check this out. I just pushed it with my hand, right on the flange. There's the clip. Now the whole axle will come out. See that? So we're gonna do the same for the driver's side, but I gotta put the phone down. So here we have the shaft. It's a little heavy, so let's see how good I am one-handed. And this is gonna be the later model one where I don't have a race to replace on this. It has a hardened metal shaft that doesn't need to be replaced like some of the older models. Right here we can see the seal is tired for sure. The bearings feel great. They only got 50,000 on them, but we're going to change it all. So we'll pop these out and see how easy the bearing is to come out. From everything I've read, it could be easy or very hard. Let's pop this guy out. Easy. Oh yeah, that's still very good. Let's see what this looks like. Oh yeah, these are good, good, good. Oh well, we got new ones. Yes, this was something I've been dreading about doing. I've had this puller kit for years, and today it just paid itself off. So we just pulled it straight out, no problems. Do it on the other side and call it a day for tonight and get those bearings pressed in tomorrow. It's the next day. I'm going to Scotch-Brite this real quick. That way we have it nice and clean for the new wheel bearing. This is the old one. I doubt it matters at all, but I can see I pulled it out with the letters facing inward. So we're gonna put this one facing the same way. And this has been in the freezer for about an hour, so it's shrunk up a little bit. Should go in really easy. I use the axle nut socket from the front axle, or I'm going to use it, and it looks like it fits pretty perfect. So we'll try it this way and hopefully it goes in smooth. It's going. Let's get a bigger hammer. Okay, so this is hitting a little ridge on the axle. So I won't be able to get it in like that. All right, well, plan B is the OEM bearing cut, so that way it doesn't get stuck in there. I figured I was going to have to do it, but I didn't want to. Either way, this should be foolproof now. You can tell when you get it all the way in because it has a nice little clunk. That's solid right there. All right, this is ready for the seal. And of course, it is a factory replacement. I'll link everything I can in the description below. Normally, I'll put grease on this inner ring, but since we aren't putting the axle in yet, I'll do it later. Right now, I'm just gonna put a very, very thin coat on here. And I don't want it too thick, so I'm gonna wipe off some of the excess. And there we have it. We've got the wheel bearing and seal pressed in. I can get the rebuilt wheel cylinders installed, and we can get to taking out that third member. Thankfully, removing the third member is quick and easy because we have the axle shafts removed. It's just a matter of getting the nuts off all the way around, using a jack to break the seal, and going under there with a crawler to pull it out. It is pretty heavy, so it's kind of hard, but in the end, we got it done. Got the third member out. ready to get wire brushed and rust reformed. The only thing is that gasket stayed on just like the front axle, so hopefully it comes off a little easier. It's all in one piece, but if it's anything like the front, it's gonna give me some grief. So let's see how hard it is. Well, this is just as bad as the front. I am literally razor blading this off piece by piece. I can't really get a camera in here to show you the whole thing, but watch the front axle rebuild video. Nothing spectacular, just a bunch of scraping and wire reeling. From here, I'm just gonna start filming getting the third member back onto here with the new gasket. So there's the third member back in. I put a small amount of FIPG on both sides of the gasket, torqued it to spec. I didn't film it. It is way too hard under there, and that thing's too heavy to get it in and get it on film without a lot of curse words. So skip that part, and we're just going to grease up the axle seal. I've already Scotch-Brighted the axle, and we'll slide it in. Do the same for both sides. Get the wheel cylinders put on. If I have enough time, we'll get to the diff cover, but if not, we'll just keep on rolling tomorrow. So we've got the wheel cylinders orientated correctly, and there's actually an angle on these little wheel cylinder pieces right here where you have to angle it downward so when it releases it goes away. So I've got that done on this side properly and this side properly. These are going to be flat, so there's no worries. And then all of these are the same. So originally the spring on the outside forward was out and inside on the rear. People on I Hate Mud say it's the other way around, but this was untouched, so I'm putting it back the exact same way I took it off. Anyways, we'll throw some grease on these pivot points and go from there. Alright, so this goes on here. Contact patch. Okay, so this is pretty much set up right where I want it to be. I couldn't find this paper gasket for the Land Cruiser, but there was one when I took off the original drum. So I used the part number off of a 2015 Tacoma, and it was like $1 for that gasket. So we've got one spring in, one spring out. I set these as short as I could, and you have to kind of center the shoe a little bit in order for this drum to go on. So right now it's going on very easy, and what I'm going to have to do is put a screwdriver back in here and open this until I get it to kind of rotate with a little drag. From there it'll self-adjust, but I don't want to put it together being this loose, that's for sure. So I'll need to mess with it a little bit, but I'm going to leave this as is, knock out the other side, and then we'll get the differential cover gasket on. Alright, it is the next day, and I'm just going to prep this with a little bit of alcohol before we get the cork gasket on. That way there's no oil or anything funny keeping it from having a proper seal. We've just had daylight savings over the weekend, and I am running out of daylight during the week. So I'm actually working on my lunch break right now. Here's gonna be the diff cover with all that stuff grinded off. And this doesn't get torqued very high. It's only about 9 foot-pounds. I've got some neighbors framing next door, so that's what that noise is. And there's nothing like OEM gaskets. This stuff is beautiful. Always fits right, and it always lasts. So we'll pop this cover back on. And all these runs, these are all factory. I just hit it with rust reformer and a skim coat of Steelite, but all these imperfections are factory. And I'm gonna zap them on, but it'll be very, very light. We're gonna rely on the good old torque wrench to make sure everything's set up properly. And since it's cork, I like to let it kind of settle a little bit when I do the first round, and then go over it one more time all the way around. Should be it. So basically the whole axle is put back together. The only thing I need to change is the front pinion seal, but I'm going to do that with the wheels on the ground, so that way it doesn't roll around and I can torque it properly. I still have tape on this because I didn't want to paint the block. It's silver, so I don't want everything black. And obviously we still have to connect the brake lines and bleed everything. There's one more line that goes all the way across to the other side. So as I teased you at the end of the last video, there is a lot of parts that came in for this thing, and I think you're gonna like it. So I'll gather them all up, flip the camera around, and we'll check it all out. All right, so now we get to the fun part. So far, a lot of the stuff I've done is boring. Door seals, boring. Maintenance, boring. Brake system rebuild, boring. Now we're getting to the fun part, which is actually modifying the Land Cruiser. Now, it is, as clean as it is not 100% stock. There are some modifications, like the rear fender quarters were cut for the flares. It's got an aftermarket sunroof. It's got an auxiliary tank hole on the side and the CB antenna hole on the side. So it is not as pure as you would think. So I'm not as guilty or feeling as guilty to modify it. So we're going to put a 2.5-inch lift kit. I've got resi shocks for the rear, non-resi for the front, and those are 2.25 diameter shock bodies, so 2.25. We've got extended shackles, greasable pins, new U-bolts, and I spec'd it out with black bushings because I didn't like red or yellow that you see on some of the other options. So just a little OCD on my part, but either way, we already got 33 by 10.5 VFG KM3s. I got a set of 5 of them, and I asked them to mount the tires so that the BFG script is right side up with the valve stem. I want the spare in the back to look good, and I had them do it to all 5, not just the spare. So this is the stock size tire, and we can see for reference what a difference, right? So besides the 2.5-inch lift, we're gonna get roughly an inch, maybe slightly over an inch additional height from the standard height that it's set at now. And one more thing I plan to do is color match these weights as best as we can so they blend in. Of course you can take them off so it looks better visually, but I don't want to be shaking around when I drive, so we're going to leave them on. But anyways, that's all for the next video. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. If you haven't liked and subscribed already, it makes a huge difference, so do that if you can. And stay tuned for the next video because that's where the fun begins with the mods, and all this maintenance stuff is over and done with, finally.